This is Good Morning Indiana, working for you.
Right now at 6 on Good Morning Indiana. Basketball fans in town for the Big Ten tourney told they can't watch games from Bankers Life Fieldhouse.
Safety is obviously the main issue.
This morning, we're looking at how the changes are impacting central Indiana businesses.
Thunderstorms will make their way into central Indiana later on this afternoon. Parts of the area under a slight and marginal risk.
End up like with a river between our house and their house.
Only on RTV6, the rain posed a threat. But what's behind these trees made matters worse. The homeowners fed up reached out to RTV6. We'll show you what's been done to fix the problem.
And the Indiana Department of Corrections needs you behind bars as an employee. Hiring Hoosiers is looking at what it takes to land a job as a corrections officer and when you can apply.
Thanks for joining us on this Thursday morning here on Good Morning Indiana. We have a lot to get to, so much developing during the overnight hours.
And this morning we wake up with a sense of hope. A lot is happening in the world in light of the coronavirus, of course. Flight restrictions, no NBA games. We're really into uncharted territory. And of course, we are committed every morning to make sure during these days that facts matter, no opinions, especially when it comes to this virus. So a lot going on. We're going to get you through it. We're going to work through the Hoosier spirit to get this done. So, whew.
And we have Nicole Griffin with us this morning.
Thanks,
guys. Glad to be here. And Storm Team 6 meteorologist Todd Klassen is standing by. Todd, as you head out the door, those roads are a little wet this morning.
Yeah, you know, they're just kind of damp from the moisture that we have around. You're not walking out to anything in the way of rainfall. That is the good news. But there is some visibility issues with some patchy fog. I will highlight the umbrella here, though, and the rain jacket. Not so much for this morning in that damp feel, but later on this afternoon, there will be showers and some thunderstorms making their way into the area. And a couple of those could be borderline strong to severe. Here are those visibility numbers right now. Inching down closer to that 1 mile threshold that I always tell you is when you start to run into some issues there in Muncie, 2.5 miles in Bloomington. So just be aware of that. Otherwise, just mostly cloudy skies here this morning. We turn our attention off to our west as we'll inherit some storms later on this afternoon. They're still well off to our west, so most of the day will be dry. It's not until probably after 4 o'clock that these storms move into the area. So this morning, as we get you out the door, notice the temperatures. They jump pretty quickly today, even with the cloud cover. Mid-50s by time we get to the noon hour. We'll highlight the severe threat for you in just a few minutes.
Todd, thank you so much. At 6:02, taking a look at your morning commute. We begin with this developing story there at I-65 and south of 38th Street. This, a semi-fire, one lane down. As you can see, traffic is trying to get around this, but it's going to take some time to get this all cleaned up. Keep that in mind as you head out this morning. As we continue this morning, a good morning to our friends in Fishers, Newcastle, and Greencastle. A live look now at this camera at I-465 and Man Road. You can see also some backups in this area. Keep this in mind this morning as you head out to work. It's going to be a busy morning here in central Indiana.
Raphael, thank you. This morning, the number of coronavirus cases in Indiana continues to rise. On Wednesday, state health officials announced the number had grown from 6 to 11. New cases are now reported in Howard, Johnson, and St. Joseph counties. The coronavirus having a major impact on the Big Ten men's basketball tournament.
Fans were expected to flock to Bankers Life Fieldhouse tonight for the second round of the tournament, but now they won't be allowed inside. Our Alyssa Donovan is here, and Alyssa, this is going to impact fans and the city.
That's right, Meredith. The Big Ten tournament brings thousands of fans to the host city. Last time Indy hosted was in 2016, and that tournament weekend brought in millions of dollars in economic impact. But tonight, the stands at Bankers Life for round 2 will be virtually empty. The only people allowed in to watch the games will be student athletes, coaches, event staff, essential team and conference staff, media, and immediate family members of the teams that are playing. Other competitions are expected to be impacted in a similar way. The announcement was made during last night's tournament opener, and it was met with frustration from fans. But we spoke to some who were actually understanding.
It's keeping athletes safe, and it's keeping fans safe, and people in the executive offices safe, and safety is obviously the main issue.
Exactly.
And the NCAA also announced yesterday that tournaments will be played without fans, with only essential staff and limited family members in attendance. The Midwest Regional of the NCAA tournament is set to be at Lucas Oil Stadium March 26th through the 28th. And the Big Ten Conference tweeted out this after their statement yesterday that all tickets purchased for the 2020 Big Ten men's basketball tournament will be refunded. Fans need to direct refund questions to the original point of purchase, whether that is through Ticketmaster, the University box office, or Bankers Life Fieldhouse box office.
Alyssa, thank you so much. Our coverage now continues at 6:05. The coronavirus is making its way to the sports world. This morning, the NBA says it's suspending the entire season after Utah Jazz player Rudy Gobert tested positive for COVID-19. Gobert was listed as inactive prior to the Jazz's game against the Thunder due to illness. He was not at the arena. There's still about 5 weeks left before the playoffs. This morning, there is no timetable as to when we'll see another game. New this morning, the Pacers organization responding to the news of the season's suspension, saying in part in their own words, "We are working to provide information to our fans who have tickets for upcoming Pacers home games." And new this half hour, the IndyCar season is scheduled to start tomorrow with practices underway in St. Petersburg, Florida. Now this morning, IndyCar leaders tell sports director Dave First that the series is moving ahead as scheduled. The race in St. Pete is scheduled for Sunday afternoon. IndyCar's next race is 3 weeks away, again in Birmingham, Alabama.
This morning, scammers are preying on your emotions when it comes to the coronavirus. Here's an example of what one of those scams might look like. A text message offering up something related to coronavirus, but when you click on the link, it tries to steal your personal information. These scams can also be emails, phone calls, Facebook posts, and messages. Really, any way we communicate. Call 6 Investigates Kara Kenny sat down with the Better Business Bureau's Tim Maniscalco to find out why people tend to fall for these scams.
They're very, very sophisticated. In fact, they're very good at impersonating brands, so to speak, whether it might be the government, the CDC, or something that looks legitimate out there, maybe a pharmaceutical company. So, yeah, they will impersonate anybody. They will make it look like it's real out there. They will say that they've got a vaccine or some way that will protect you against the virus, or they may try to sell you some sort of protective kit that really amounts to just a cloth mask and some tips that you could get, right off the internet.
To protect yourself, do not click on any suspicious links and make sure your computer's antivirus software is up to date.
The Marion County Public Health Department has new recommendations when it comes to large gatherings of people. They say if you are at a higher risk of contracting coronavirus, you should avoid crowds of people where the virus is most easily spread. COVID-19 has been shown to be more deadly in older people, so Dr. Virginia Kane says seniors with chronic medical illnesses such as heart disease, diabetes, and lung disease should reconsider attending large public gatherings. That includes festivals, sporting events, and other activities where large crowds gather. Also, Dr. Kane says anyone who has returned from visiting a country on the CDC's level 2 or level 3 travel health notice within the last 14 days should also avoid attending large gatherings.
New this half hour, the growing number of coronavirus cases is also impacting Indiana prisons. The Indiana Department of Corrections is suspending in-person visitation at all of Indiana's prisons. This is a change from earlier this week. Prison officials say friends and family can still talk to their loved ones via video chat. The restrictions start today and will last for at least 2 weeks. A lot has happened with the coronavirus over the last 24 hours, and new things are happening every day. That is why we've put all of our coronavirus stories in one easy to find place. Just visit theindychannel.com/coronavirus to find the very latest. We also know there's a lot of false information being spread about the virus. Our Scripps national team is helping you weed through the fake news. They've put together everything you need to know in a 30-minute special called The Coronavirus, The Facts. It will air Friday night at 7 o'clock only on RTV6.
Here at 6:09 and working for you, Shirley Matthews sent us an email expressing frustration with the flooding in her neighborhood in Greenwood.
And there is the problem. She blamed the retention pond behind her home for all of that. We reached out to the city of Greenwood and the owner of the pond and learned that they had a plan of attack underway.
It's a good-sized pond. It's a very good-sized pond back there.
Beyond the trees is where Shirley Matthews looked with fear every time it rained.
It's ruining our property. You know, it's jeopardizing our property.
In June 2019, these are the images she can't forget from her Greenwood neighborhood. This was South Reston Road overwhelmed with water. This past January, the flooding wasn't as bad, but people are fed up.
It's very annoying because anytime there's at least an inch of rain, it's coming through. And it fills my crawl space with water.
Behind their homes was the problem. This retention pond belonging to Menards. Menards tells RTV6 that in 2019, the pond overflowed due to heavy rains and a population of beavers damming it up. The retailer hired a contractor in June 2019 to fix the retention pond, but the project was hampered by the heavy record rains. We reached out to the city of Greenwood, which has also been working on this issue.
It was good that the homeowners called and said, hey, we still continue to have a problem, and allowed us to, contact Menard and say, hey, you need to fix this problem.
RTV6 has been monitoring the homeowners' concerns since mid-January to see what would happen. Menards kept its word. Improvements have been made to their pond and surrounding area to prevent flooding in the neighborhood. Now when Shirley looks beyond the trees, she has greater confidence that her home won't flood.
So, Raphael, have the homeowners benefited from those improvements we just saw?
They have. As you may recall, we had some heavy rains earlier this year. Nothing like that in recent weeks. Todd is talking about rain coming up tonight, but so far since the improvements, no flooding. The folks in that neighborhood are happy that they made that fix.
Some great results,
yeah.
Raphael. This story is posted right now on our website, theindychannel.com. Nicole.
At the State House this morning, a proposal potentially forcing Attorney General Curtis Hill out of office has stalled. Both the House and Governor Holcomb backed a proposal prohibiting anyone whose law license has been suspended for at least 30 days from serving as Attorney General. Hill is facing a possible 60-day suspension over allegations of sexual misconduct. Senate President Pro Tem Roderick Bray says senators weren't protecting Hill, but were worried about interfering in the election process. Hill is still waiting on a decision from the state Supreme Court on whether he'll face any punishment.
The time now is 6:12, and new this morning, authorities in Terre Haute are investigating who abandoned a baby. A passerby spotted the newborn on the porch of a vacant home there. Officials say the baby still had the umbilical cord attached, and the baby was taken to a fire station before being rushed to the hospital. Fire officials say the baby is doing okay. This serves as a reminder that there are more than 24 safe haven baby boxes in the Hoosier State. The aim of those boxes are to prevent situations like this one in Terre Haute, which can turn out to be deadly. Terre Haute does not have a safe haven baby box. The nearest location is here in Indianapolis, almost 45 minutes to an hour away. If your community does not have a box, Indiana's safe haven law allows people to surrender a newborn to a first responder without the fear of being arrested.
I'm Kelsey Anderson. Coming up in Hiring Hoosiers, the Pendleton Correctional Facility is hiring. I'll tell you what it takes to be a successful corrections officer.
And it's been a while since we had to talk about the potential for severe weather here in central Indiana, but that's what we'll be doing here later on this afternoon, mainly in southern locations. That's where the slight risk is in place, but it's a marginal risk up to Rockville as well as Indianapolis and Richmond. The main threats, damaging wind and hail. The timing between 4 and 8 p.m. We'll dive into this storm threat coming up in your Storm Team 6 forecast. The time now is 6:13. You're watching Good Morning Indiana right here on RTV6.
Floors to your home. That too.
Hiring Hoosiers is our commitment to connect you to jobs, resources, and training.
This morning, the State Department of Correction has the Help Wanted sign posted just for you.
And our Kelsey Anderson is live this morning with an inside look at what it takes to be a corrections officer. Good morning, Kelsey.
Hey, good morning. the Pendleton Correctional Facility has a career fair almost every month, and they have a lot of vacancies to fill. So we asked, is it because they have high turnover or low turnout to those career fairs? And we asked Major Michael Conyers, and he tells me it's a little bit of both. He says sometimes the job title gets a bad rap, but ask anyone who works here and they'll tell you they really do enjoy what they do. He says the 3 things it takes to be a successful CO is fairness, firmness, and consistency. If you think you possess those 3 traits, he wants to see you at the career fair this Saturday. During the interview process, future employees do get to shadow a corrections officer so they can get a real feel for the job before accepting or denying a position.
The mission of a correctional officer is safety and security. First and foremost is making sure that the offender population is secured, making sure that the public is safe, making sure that the offender population is taken care of.
COs start out at $16 an hour, have full benefits, time off for personal and sick days, plus holidays. Plus, the facility offers a tuition forgiveness program. Coming up in the next half hour, you'll hear from 3 corrections officers on their experiences and what they say it takes to work here and be successful at this job. Reporting live, Kelsey Anderson, RTV6.
Kelsey, thank you. Here at 6:17, we want to take a look at what you can expect here on your Thursday. Todd, we are starting off the day a little gloomy, kind of what we've been dealing with all week long here.
Yeah, you know, it's gloomy, but it's quiet. That's the good news. There's a little bit of patchy fog out there, but no major issues as the kids head off to school and you head off to work. So that's the good news. The bad news is later on this afternoon, we are going to bring in the threat for some strong to severe storms. But this morning, even though there's that damp feeling out there, it is going to be dry. We have no precipitation that will be heading our way. We're in the 40s right now in most locations. 36-degree reading down there in Bedford where the skies have cleared just a little bit. That's why you're running a little bit colder. 45 right now in Muncie. 40's the current temperature in Crawfordsville. So today turns into a pretty mild day for us. You just got to be patient, but it'll be a slow and steady climb from the 40s into the 50s by the noon hour, and then we'll be pushing 60 degrees as we get into the afternoon hours. But once we get to 4 o'clock onward, that's when we're going to bring in the threat for the strong to severe storms. Radar is quiet right now. We'll throw the clouds on with the satellite picture for you, and you can see most of the state is locked in with the cloud cover currently. Now, when we're dealing with the storms later on this afternoon, they are not going to be the storms that just pop up here across central Indiana or where the front coming through. That will catch us by surprise. We'll be able to track them in. They're going to develop here across parts of Missouri, move through Illinois into northern Kentucky, and we're just going to be on the northern fringe of the severe threat as it makes its way into central Indiana. And for those of you to the north, while you probably get into some rain showers and maybe a few heavier downpours, you don't have the threat of severe weather like southern locations do for the day today. 4 o'clock, some showers moving in. The heavy rain and the stronger storms will move in after that. Bloomington under the marginal or slight risk for severe weather. Greensburg as well. Indianapolis is just a marginal risk, which I'll show you. But you can see how these isolated storms are really confined to the southern half of the state. I think the strongest of the storms are really probably along the Ohio River and then into northern Kentucky. So that's good news for us here, at least in central Indiana. They move through pretty quickly. By the time we get to 9, 10 o'clock, the severe threat's over. Could be a lingering shower or two that takes us closer to the midnight hour, but that should be just about it. It's this enhanced risk in this brown color that has the best potential to see tornadoes throughout the day today. Can we rule one out in southern Indiana or maybe here in far southern central Indiana? It's not completely out of the question, but that's the lowest threat on our spectrum. And here's how the risk breaks down. It comes up to a marginal risk in Indianapolis as well as Richmond, kind of divided along I-70. Bloomington over towards Seymour and Columbus. You're right on the borderline of the marginal and the slight risk. And so just keep in mind, the further south you are, the better potential for the stronger storms. By far, the biggest threat will be damaging wind for everybody. Can't rule out some hail. And then there's that isolated tornado threat across extreme southern portions. Not really too concerned about flooding because these storms will move through pretty quickly. They're not going to sit in one location. Once the front goes through, tomorrow partly cloudy skies, temperatures a little bit cooler. We will be in the 40s across the area, and then we'll once we get to the weekend, look at this. We're talking about the potential for rain and snow showers across the area with a high temperature of only 40 degrees, a low below freezing, and there even could be some minor snow accumulation Saturday in far northern locations. Should not impact the roads, but on some grassy areas, it's not completely out of the question. So we go from talking about spring-like severe weather storms this afternoon to the potential for some wintry weather on Saturday. It's just a quick hit of colder air, though. By the time we get to Monday, we're back into the mid-50s and then up to 60 degrees for St. Patrick's Day.
Todd, thank you. Here's a live look from our live drive vehicle this morning. Photographer Shay Goodpaster is headed to I-465 eastbound near Man Road, where the two left lanes are closed. You can see the backup there in that area. We also want to remind you that the right lane of I-65 northbound is closed near 38th Street, where crews are currently cleaning up a semi-fire.
This morning, the coronavirus outbreak is taking a toll on the 2020 presidential election. Instead of holding large crowd events in Illinois and Florida, former Vice President Joe Biden's campaign says he'll hold virtual events today and Monday. Biden is expected to deliver remarks on the coronavirus pandemic. All members of the House and Senate are in closed-door briefings on Capitol Hill about COVID-19. A staff member in Senator Maria Cantwell's Washington, D.C. office has tested positive for the virus. Several members of Congress are also in self-quarantine after coming in contact with those who have tested positive for COVID-19.
Is there a doctor in the house? A doctor in Las Vegas helping the homeless with their health care. New at 6:26, how this doctor hopes his patients will pay it forward. That's what's coming up right here on Good Morning, Indiana.
Dream Mattress Studio at Value City Furniture.
Hey, Raphael, did you hear that they are making a prequel to the movie about us?
Oh, it must be Beauty and the Beast.
You're correct. Gaston may be getting his own Disney Plus series. The streaming service is working on the Beauty and the Beast prequel. The show would star Luke Evans and Josh Gad in the same roles that they had in the 2017 film. Reports say the 6-episode series will feature musical numbers.
That's exciting.
Be our guest. Be our guest.
Look at you.
Nice.
Well, maybe I can
you
get
can
a
watch
role.
Meredith on American Idol, season 35. Right. One doctor in Las Vegas is providing urgent care for the homeless for a unique fee. Patients of Dr. Elliot Shin are required to help somebody else with 3 acts of kindness. Shin says the letter of a good deed is a patient's ticket back into the clinic. In 10 years, Shin says he's treated over 16,000 patients free of charge.
Oh, that's a great idea.
It's always great to see how people are trying to find ways to just engage people to do good things. And if that works, Dr. Shin, do your thing.
Pay it forward. Yes, love it.
Love that. All right. Well, we are hoping for a little bit of a better forecast, but kind of typical for mid-March.
Yeah, you know, we're talking about temperatures near 6 degrees, not bad, but also the potential for some severe weather. So as we go throughout the course of the day today, we will see a quiet start to our day with skies that'll be cloudy across the area and temperatures that'll be in the 40s this morning, eventually climbing up to 53 degrees by the noon hour. And we're still dry. It's not till this afternoon after 4 o'clock that the severe threat will make its way into central Indiana, but not before temperatures turn mild this afternoon, all the way up into the low to mid 60s. The best threat for severe weather will be across the southern half of the state. We'll talk more about that in detail in just a few minutes.
Todd, thank you. Lots of people are rushing to cancel their spring break travel plans thanks to the coronavirus.
This morning, our John Matarese explains why some young people are looking to cash in on cheap flights and if it's a good idea.
Millions of Americans are now scrambling to change their springtime travel plans. They're canceling cruises, postponing flights, and hunkering down. But at the same time, some young people are rushing to buy cheap flights right now. A report this week in the Daily Mail says that while airlines are coping with thousands of cancellations, young people are grabbing suddenly discounted flights. Many of them are college students, now looking at a month without classes. The report says some intrepid travelers are grabbing flights to Hawaii for $198, while someone posted a screenshot of a flight to Australia for $49, though that may not be in U.S. dollars. Now, one reason most young people do not seem to be seriously worried by the coronavirus, but some doctors say this may not be a great idea because you could end up quarantined when you get home and you could give the virus to your older relatives. Some doctors are also wondering if canceling classes is a good idea if students are going to now start traveling around the world. Keep that in mind so you don't waste your money. I'm John Matarese. Good morning, Indiana.
This is Good Morning Indiana, working for you.
Now on Good Morning Indiana on this Thursday morning, this is your news feed. The impact of the coronavirus that causes COVID-19 exploding overnight. As the number of cases rises, the Big Ten men's basketball tournament here in Indianapolis will be played with no fans at Bankers Life Fieldhouse for the rest of the week. The NCAA also mandated no fans at its men's and women's tournaments this year, and the NBA season is suspended after a player tested positive for the virus. More on this rapidly developing story coming up in the next 2 minutes right here after our weather forecast.
Detectives in Henry County are investigating after a body was found inside a Knightstown home after a fire. The fire started Wednesday afternoon at East North Street and Franklin Street. The Henry County coroner says after the fire was put out, crews found a 66-year-old man dead inside. The identity of the victim has not been released.
A 16-year-old gets 40 years in prison for the murders of a brother and sister on the northeast side. Lometrius Sanders agreed to a plea deal in the deaths of 16-year-old Nicholas Nelson and his sister, 15-year-old Ashlyn Nelson. The teens were killed inside their apartment near 42nd and Post last August. Sanders will also have to serve 5 years of home detention after he's released.
It is not junk mail. Important census documents will be showing up in Marion County mailboxes today. There are invitations to participate in the 2020 census. The Census Bureau conducts this count every 10 years. It helps determine things like representation in Congress and funding for schools and roads and other public services. The mailed invitation will include instructions for how to respond to the 2020 census online or by phone. Thank you for making the call to join us this morning here on Good Morning Indiana. It is Thursday, March the 12th.
And we have Nicole Griffin joining us this morning. Lauren Casey has the morning off. A lot to get to, but first we want to check in on the weather with meteorologist Todd Clausen.
Yeah, and there's a lot to talk about here in the forecast. It's pretty quiet this morning, just a little bit of patchy fog as you get yourself going out the door. Our concern is more later on this afternoon as we make our way into the 4 and 5 o'clock hour that we bring in the chance of storms. So out the door this morning, mostly cloudy skies, still kind of that damp feel and temperatures that are in the 40s. And on the satellite radar picture, you can see the clouds trying to break apart across parts of Illinois. I think we start off definitely with a lot of clouds. I do think we could work a little bit of sunshine into our forecast, hopefully here this morning. The problem is the more sunshine we see, the warmer the temperatures get, the better potential for severe weather later on this afternoon. And we'll watch as this cluster of storms off to our west will start to make its way towards the Ohio River in northern Kentucky as we get into the afternoon and evening hours. The biggest threat for severe weather is going to be across the southern half of the state, but things really start to ramp up between 5 and 8 o'clock, and then the rain threat will start to diminish throughout the evening hours. So a great tool to have, as we always tell you, is the Storm Shield app. It's completely free. You can download it in the App Store. It'll alert you to any thunderstorm watches or warnings that get issued later on this afternoon. We'll talk more about the severe threat coming up in just a few minutes.
Todd, thank you. We are taking a live look right now from our live drive. We are here on I-465 southbound near Kentucky Avenue. Our photographer, Shay Goodpaster, behind the wheel, trying to make his way to Man Road, but as you can see, it is quite backed up. That is because the 2 left lanes on Man Road are closed. This backup has not been moving here for quite a few minutes. We also want to remind you that the right lane is closed on I-65 near 38th Street as crews clean up a semi-fire that is anticipated to be cleaned up within the next few minutes, hopefully. So that should be clear. We will let you know the latest on this situation, however, once we come back to traffic. But right now, we want to get to the coronavirus, and its impact on our lives is moving very quickly. There is a lot of news this morning. Some of it you've been hearing since yesterday. Some of it you will hear for the very first time about the ripple effect COVID-19 is not just having here in central Indiana, but around the world.
So much information. Before we get to all of those details, Meredith, we want to take a step back and talk about your health. We want to make sure you have the facts about how you can protect yourself and your family and the people around you every single day. Here's a look at the symptoms of this virus according to the Centers for Disease Control. They're very similar to the flu and other illnesses, fever, cough, shortness of breath. Those are some of the symptoms that you may want to keep in mind as you go through the day.
If you have been exposed to COVID-19, the symptoms may appear 2 to 14 days after that exposure. And if you think you have any of these symptoms seen right here, you should call your doctor or healthcare provider first. Showing up at a clinic could expose other people to the virus, and we do not want that to happen.
There are ways that you can protect yourself as well. The CDC says, please wash your hands with soap and water and scrub for at least 20 seconds. Sing happy birthday or use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Now, we know that it's hard to find those right now, but stores tell us they are trying to restock. Avoid close contact with people who may be sick. Don't touch your eyes, your nose, or your mouth. And please stay home if you are sick. And also, clean and disinfect frequently touched objects and surfaces using a regular household cleaning spray or wipes.
With so much information out there, we want to help you and your family navigate the coronavirus. You can find the latest information anytime on our website, theindychannel.com/coronavirus.
Well, we're hoping we still have a game to go to. If not, well, I guess we'll hang out at a bar somewhere and watch it on TV.
The coronavirus outbreak is now having a major impact on central Indiana's economy. Thousands of visitors here this weekend for the Big Ten men's basketball tournament now don't have a seat for the game. It's just one example of how businesses and their customers are having to make major adjustments as this story rapidly changes. And our Alyssa Donovan is here this morning. She's been looking at all these big changes having to be made and the impact it will have on the local economy.
And it's having a pretty big impact. We know that the Big Ten tournament brings in thousands of fans. Its host city has those fans staying at hotels, eating at our restaurants, shopping at our stores, racking up millions of dollars in economic gain for the city's economy. But if fans can't get in to see the games, many could cancel their trips altogether. Now tonight, the stands at Bankers Life for round 2 will be virtually empty. The only people allowed in to watch the games will be student athletes, coaches, event staff, essential team and conference staff, media, and immediate family members of the teams playing. The announcement to limit attendance due to the COVID-19 outbreak was made during last night's tournament opener, and it was met with some frustration from fans. But we did speak with one business owner who says she's trying to see the positive side.
It is sad that they're not letting fans go in and watch, but people who have tickets, people who have probably flown from out of town, what else are they going to do? They're going to walk around, explore the city maybe. Maybe they'll come in and see us.
The NCAA also announced yesterday that tournament will be played without fans, with only essential staff and limited family members in attendance. The Midwest Regional of the NCAA tournament is set to be at Lucas Oil Stadium on March 26th through the 28th. Now, Big Ten did announce on Twitter that they are refunding tickets to fans. The NCAA has not specified if fans who have already purchased tickets will be refunded.
Alyssa, thank you. The outbreak is also impacting the Indiana Pacers. The NBA announced late last night that it would be suspending its season after at least one player tested positive for COVID-19. Fans attending the Oklahoma City Thunder Utah Jazz game were sent home shortly before tip-off. And you can see right here reaction from Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban. The IU grad stunned when he received the news as he was watching a game. Speaking to reporters later, Cuban said he understood the decision. And this morning, the Pacers organization responding to the league's decision, saying in part, quote, with the unexpected news, we are working to provide information to our fans who have tickets for upcoming Pacers home games. We will continue to provide updates as they become available. We also checked in with the IHSAA about this weekend's boys basketball regional games. Those games will go on as scheduled unless the governor or state health department decide otherwise. The same goes for the gymnastics state finals. Also, there are band members in Indianapolis from across the country as part of a Music for All festival. Music for All says those events are still on, and statewide competitions for high school bands and color guards are also still scheduled for this weekend.
At 6:38, our coverage of the coronavirus in Indiana continues. 11 cases of COVID-19 have been confirmed in our state. The latest cases were confirmed in Johnson, Howard, and St. Joseph counties. As more are reported, universities are suspending classes. The University of Notre Dame, Ball State, and the University of Indianapolis are the latest to cancel in-person classes and replace them with online instruction. That will be in effect for Notre Dame through at least April the 13th. Ball State says classes will be suspended through the end of the semester. UIndy extending its spring break and is also moving classes online until further notice. IU and Purdue have already announced they are suspending in-person classes as well.
President Trump spoke to the nation last night trying to assure Americans that the battle to contain the coronavirus is going as planned. But instead, the speech and numerous follow-ups from the White House are sowing confusion among some as how the federal government is handling the outbreak. One example is right here.
To keep new cases from entering our shores, we will be suspending all travel from Europe to the United States for the next 30 days.
But after the speech, the president clarified on Twitter that he was stopping only some passenger travel and not the trade in goods between countries across the Atlantic. Also, the travel ban does not apply to Americans or U.S. permanent residents. Trump also caused confusion when he said that health insurance companies had agreed to waive co-payments for coronavirus treatments. The White House later clarified that Trump had meant to say that co-payments would be waived for tests for the virus and not for health care treatments. And we want to separate fact from fiction when it comes to the coronavirus. Tomorrow night, we'll be airing a 30-minute special from our Scripps national team. Coronavirus The Facts is breaking down what you need to know and answering any questions that you may have. You can watch that at 7 o'clock tomorrow evening right here on RTV6.
You know, our biggest concern right now is the health of every one of our fellow neighbors, Hoosiers, our fellow Americans, really the world community. So we want to do everything possible. There'll be a lot of disruptions to our lives. We have to change, a lot of bumping, right? At the desk.
Right.
But we have to do what we have to do, of course, to contain this thing. So we're going to have to work together, right?
Right.
To get through this.
Yes, this very much reminds me of life post 9/11, immediately after a lot of uncertainty, a lot of questions. We here are taking our cues from medical professionals, from local governments, from the president to see what we should do next. And we hope that you do that as well, because there are a lot of things that we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen a week from now, but we will be resilient and we will all get through this.
We have to be measured, uncharted territory, but information, facts matter. Opinions do not count in this case. Our commitment to you is to give you as many facts as possible throughout the days and weeks ahead. So we'll do our thing.
All right, coming up, the Pendleton Correctional Facility is looking to hire Hoosiers. Up next, our Kelsey Anderson is looking into what it takes to become a correctional officer and how you could soon snag a job. We'll be right back.
866-498-4968.
Welcome back to Good Morning Indiana. The time now is 6:44. Hiring Hoosiers is an initiative from RTV6 that works to connect Hoosiers to job, career resources, training programs, as well as educational paths.
And this morning, our Kelsey Anderson is giving us an inside look at what it takes to be a corrections officer at the state-run Pendleton Correctional Facility. She is there now live this morning with much more. Good morning, Kelsey.
Good morning. So fairness, firmness, and consistency, those are the three traits it takes to be a successful corrections officer. And here at the Pendleton Correctional Facility, they're hiring. So we're going to give you an inside look exactly what this job looks like.
It's a great career. It provides for your family, and there's a lot of room for growth and advancement.
Ask any corrections officer and they'll tell you their job is not an easy one, but it is a necessary one.
It's always going to be here. This job's never going to go anywhere.
And right now, the Pendleton Correctional Facility is hiring.
What you see on TV is not what transpires every day. So some days it can be TV and some days it's not TV. For the most part, we're just trying to make sure the guys are safe.
As a female officer, Tiara Howard's 5 years working in the men's prison has come with some challenges.
You just have to be strong-headed, don't wear your feelings on your sleeves, and be able to say no and not be easily offended.
All much easier to overcome because of who she works with.
When I graduated from college, I was looking for stability. And when I came to corrections, I have literally developed a second family.
Eric Hammond, a veteran member of that family with 20 years working at the Pendleton Corrections, monitors the yard with his canine, Indy.
I really enjoy canine. It's been a big part of my life. Something that's kept me going each day.
For those looking at this career, Hammond advises to keep an open mind.
when you first get in, it's overwhelming. It really is. There's a lot going on, but the longer you stay here, the easier it gets. You build a rapport with the offenders. You build camaraderie with your staff, and it does get easier.
Corrections officers start out at $16 an hour, full benefits, paid time off, plus the facility offers a tuition forgiveness program.
I think it's a good career opportunity. There's virtually everybody, warden on down, started off just as a correctional officer. So, I mean, you can advance as high as you're willing to put in the effort and energy.
Well, if you're at least 18 years old and have a high school diploma or a GED, we've got good news for you. They're having a hiring fair this weekend on Saturday from 9 to noon here at the facility. So head over to hiringhoosiers.com to figure out what you need to bring and to prepare yourself for that career fair. Reporting live, Kelsey Anderson, RTV6.
Kelsey, thank you. A very different kind of Throwback Thursday coming up next. It was a tragic case that helped change the way cars were made, and it happened right here in Indiana more than 4 decades ago. Todd.
And the threat of severe weather returns to central Indiana later on this afternoon. 4 o'clock, it'll be making its way into western communities, basically in this area of yellow that you see here. 5 to 6 o'clock through the metro area, then 6 to 7 o'clock on the eastern side of the state. We'll time it out using TrueCast and talk about the main threats heading our way coming up in your full forecast in just a few minutes.
2 days only at Ashley Home Store. This is home.
Normally for Throwback Thursday, we take a look at something that's a little more lighthearted from our past or something that might tie into the news of today.
But more than 4 decades ago, a car crash that happened in Indiana not only changed lives, it helped change the way cars were made all across the country.
So in 1978, 18-year-old Judy Ulrich was driving a Ford Pinto on US 33 near Goshen, that's in northern Indiana, as you know, with her teenage sister and cousin also in that vehicle. Now, Judy slowed on the highway to make sure her gas cap was on. And that's when a Chevy van rear-ended the Pinto, and the Pinto immediately burst into flames, killing all 3 of the young women inside. Almost immediately, the investigation focused on the Pinto's gas tank. As it turns out, Ford had issued a voluntary recall of its Pinto and Mercury Bobcat a month before that crash. A former Channel 6 reporter, Dan O'Rourke, spoke with mechanics who explained why the Pinto's gas tank was a time bomb waiting to go off.
Gas tank, upon impact, has been sliding forward and being creased by the jagged edges of the differential. This thing goes right through the gas tank, and that's, in other words, when a car is hit from behind, it's not the back that punctures, it's the front part of it. That is correct, along with the also the problem that they've had that the filler nozzle that leads into the gas tank has been short and has ruptured as the gas tank has slid forward. Snapped out. Correct.
A grand jury later indicted the Ford Motor Company for reckless homicide, claiming that Ford executives knew the gas tank was dangerous. But 2 years later, in 1980, a jury found Ford not guilty, saying that prosecutors had not presented enough evidence. Still, the case changed the way automakers designed gas tanks, and Ford ended production of the Pinto altogether in the year 1980.
I never knew all that.
I didn't either. That's very
story
interesting.
behind that.
Wow.
I knew the Pinto. Yeah, they ceased making them, years ago. But yeah, that's really interesting. And our thoughts go out to their families because I'm sure to this day, still something very hard to deal with. Taking a turn now, we want to check in with meteorologist Todd Clausen. Todd, as people head out this morning, what can they expect weather-wise?
It's kind of damp out there right now, but we have no precipitation falling from the clouds. And we'll get rid of this damp feeling as the day goes on, but there's some visibility issues currently out there as well. Muncie down to 1.5 miles visibility in some locations just to the west of Muncie and north of Indianapolis here through Tipton and into northern Hamilton County. Has some patchy dense fog. It's not terrible this morning, but just be aware of it as you take to the roadways. Otherwise, temperatures are in the 40s across much of the area and within a couple degrees of each other. We have a few 30s on the map in Columbus down into the Bedford area where the clouds have thinned out just a little bit more this morning. And overall, today is going to be a rather mild day for us. These temperatures will warm quite quickly throughout the middle half of the morning, and then eventually this afternoon will be in the 50s to right around 60 degrees, and most of the day is going to be dry. It's not until once we get to 4 or 5 o'clock that we're going to start to bring in the chance of showers and storms. However, once that storm threat does arrive, there will be the potential for some severe weather across the area. Here are the clouds that are in place right now. I'm hopeful for a little bit of sun sunshine, and you can see the clouds breaking apart a little bit down towards the Bloomington area. The more sunshine we see today, the better potential we'll have for some strong to severe storms to ramp up throughout the day. And we'll inherit these storms from the west. And what I mean by that is we'll be able to see them coming and see exactly the direction that they're heading throughout the afternoon. They're not just going to blossom here across central Indiana with the passage of a front or anything like that. So the time frame is starting at 3 o'clock. There could be a few spotty showers, but the stronger storms don't make their way into the area probably until after 4. The further south you are, the stronger the storm potential will be. In fact, to the north, while we could have some downpours and maybe a little bit of lightning, probably no severe weather north of Indianapolis, but Bloomington over towards Greensburg and Columbus definitely has the severe threat. That ends by about 8 o'clock, even though a few showers could linger into the evening hours. The best potential for any tornadoes would be across extreme southern Indiana. We're talking about the counties right along the Ohio River, but it is a slight risk that extends as far north as Bloomington and just to the north of the Seymour area. The main threat today by far will be wind. Can't rule out the chance of a little bit of hail. The tornado threat again is low, but I wouldn't be shocked maybe if there's a tornado warning or so in extreme southern Indiana. And of course, Kyle and Kevin will be in this evening to track that for you if it materializes. A quick shot of winter air on Saturday with some rain and snow showers and a high of 40 degrees. Back to more spring-like conditions, though, by the time we get to St. Patrick's Day.
Todd, thank you. Let's take a live look in our RTV6 live drive vehicle. Our photographer Shay Goodpaster traveling on I-65 northbound near the Meridian and Pennsylvania exit. No problems if your commute takes you in this area this morning. We'll be right back at 6:54. You're watching Good Morning Indiana.
Visit the Hiring Hoosiers job board.
All right, be aware of the potential for some strong storms after 4 o'clock this afternoon.
Todd, thank you. And thank you